Look, it is a challenge in higher density areas for people to get outside and to spread their legs.
I'm a bit sick of drop kicks that can't get themselves organised.
Well, yes, indeed. Is New Zealand about to have its third COVID election? And the Broadcasting Standards Authority could soon be on the chopping block. Is New Zealand's fuel plan going to carry us through the crisis? And one commentator suggested this week. Is it time to bring back Auntie Helen? With me this evening, Ruwani Perera, senior reporter for current affairs show The Hui and 3 News reporter. Ruwani, kia ora. Great to have you back.
Nice to be here.
We have also David Farrar, editor of Kiwi Blog, owner of Curia Market Polls. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
And they are joined by none other than former Minister and former Wellington Central MP, Marian Hobbs. Kia ora, Marian. It is great to have you on
Kia
the
ora,
whip. Yeah, great panel tonight. Ruwani Perera, David Farrar and Marian Hobbs. Now, as we always do on the whip, we have the listener quiz question. So here it is. A song with a purely political bent was released in 1980. It's a New Zealand song. What was the name of the song? There you go. Purely political bent. 1980. Everyone's going, what the heck?
This is the first one that stumped me. I've known all the others, but...
If David stumped, then obviously it's
Are you serious,
unknowable.
David?
To be fair, I was still at school in 1980. I
Okay.
was into politics then.
Can I just, have we got that for what? Is it going to be too hard? One more time. Here we go.
It's really hard.
There we go. It's very political. Very, very political. It's a Kiwi song, 2101. Anyway, to the topics, things are heating up for election year, but are we set for more of the same come November? The spin-off writer John McManus argues that National is planning a positive campaign, but that's no longer an option with global events throwing economic recovery out the window. So his theory is this: the party is pivoting to a negative campaign, drawing on memories of the COVID era to highlight a point of difference from Labour. David Farrar, do you buy that?
I think Joel's analysis is reasonably correct because, generally, if you're in your first term, you don't want to talk about the opposition. You hope that things are going well enough that it's just, look how much better things are. But the reality is, too many people are still struggling, and you can argue, and politicians will, about whose fault that is. But I think that does mean that National will be campaigning not just on what they've achieved, but trying to remind people, as they see it, of what they inherited, that if you're still finding things tight, hey, remember who got the inflation rate up to 7%. So I think Joel's analysis, I don't think it will be the most major part of the election, but I think generally, yes, you will see the government attacking the opposition more than you normally would for a first-term government.
How do you see this, Marian Hobbs?
Well, I just don't want us to relitigate the past. I'm frankly over it. For my mokopuna, age 9 and 6.5, I want to solve the issues facing them. Okay, and they are huge issues. There's lessons from the past, according to the government, is that Labour supported business and workers too much. So care workers are still not being paid adequately today for the cost of the petrol to get between their patients. I want them to focus on the immediate needs for the petrol and diesel poor. I want to focus on supporting communities up in the East Coast and Northland, hit time and time again by storms. I want to focus on building a wider base of friends. Could we please choose Carney rather than Trump?
Before we get to Euro, I'm just coming back to Marianne, but the government has announced an independent review of New Zealand's monetary policy response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which is actually due for release September. So you can say all that stuff, but look, it might well be a COVID-19 election, Marianne.
And I think people will turn off. I think it's actually, politically, I think it's a really bad mistake. From when I'm out working amongst people in the area that I live, they are consumed with the problems of today, not the problems of yesterday.
What do you make of that, Ruwani? They want to look forward. They don't want to go back and relitigate COVID-19
I mean,
again.
It's already, the echoes are all there anyway, and as we'll talk about later with the fuel crisis, the phases and they're trying to stay away from that nanny state and that positioning. But if you have a look at Simeon Brown, he's been quite vocal on Twitter as well. It's all attack, Labour negative campaign. And I don't know if that was Chris Bishop's angle, and that's why he was taken off, and maybe they've pursued this, but it's very negative. You talk about the inflation, but, when we're coming up to the election, we're looking at something like 6s and 7s, aren't we? So I don't know, the government have got to be really careful.
David, are you worried about the possible negativity? I mean, think back to your party and that strapline, a brighter future. Where's that?
Yeah, well, that's
Back on
we
track.
don't have a brighter future at the moment. Again, obviously, what's happened in the Middle East is a big part of that. Look, where I think National's going to try and make the case is that of the 60 billion for COVID, only 30 billion was spent on COVID, and the reason they can't help people more now is because Grant spent it all. And you can argue about that, but that's what National will be promoting. And what I find interesting, though, is Labour haven't come out and said, here's what we would do, you have to spend more, because I think they're very shy of being seen to be fiscally irresponsible, because they are worried that people may think, well, look, last time we ended up with deficit and debts, etc. So I think the fact Labour themselves haven't actually said anything specific in terms of what they would do for support tells you they are a bit worried about their record.
Okay.
No, I don't believe that, actually.
Come to the
I
mic.
look forward to the
Marian, come to the
announcements.
mic. Come to the mic.
Sorry,
Final
love.
point.
I don't accept that, because I think that they are being fiscally responsible. That's Labour, in the sense that they're waiting to have the books open. And that's really important. You can't promise everything if you haven't got the money in there. And that's really what the point is.
I agree to a certain point, Marian, but you have to have some ideas. You have to have a fresh take. I think people are sick of the blame game on either, you're blaming COVID, the last government, this government's now going to use this Iranian crisis to blame as well for the poor economic performance. Let's just start getting on with things so that people can actually live properly
Marian?
again.
I totally agree, but it will not come out in a list tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, it is 20 to 8, the whip we have. Marian Hobbs, David Farrar, Ruwani Perera, and a big response to our quiz questions, so thank you for that. Now, here's one that might shock the media hounds among us. The Broadcasting Standards Authority, the BSA, could soon be on the chopping block. So Paul Goldsmith reveals at a Waikanae community meeting, of all places, that he's got 3 options. Keep the broadcasting regulator as it is, redefine its scope, or scrap it altogether. And I thought, wow, we've got a very articulate panel of journalists, David Farrar there.
Were
and
you
the former
broadcasting minister,
Former
Marian? Yeah, I thought
broadcasting
so.
certainly was. So this is why we're talking about it. So you first, Marian Hobbs, as a former broadcasting minister, how do you rate the functionality of the BSA, the Broadcasting Standards Authority?
Well, I think the minister actually put up 3 options, and the one I like is redefine the scope rather than scrapping it. Okay? It's certainly, our news has changed. I would be, whereas I listen to Morning Report in the morning, that's about the only time-driven report that I listen to. I don't necessarily watch the news at 6. And we are picking our news and our commentary from all over the place. And that is not always covered. I don't think they're covering at the moment bloggers and podcasters and all those sorts of things.
Marian Hobbs, should Sean Plunkett and the platform be covered by the BSA?
We'll buy a reformed BSA, and reformed only in the way that somebody has a look at what it should cover.
Ruwani?
I mean,
Journalists?
people say, get rid of the BSA. Oh, journalists will be loving that. Well, actually, this journalist, absolutely not. It's a great guardrail for us. It keeps us fair and balanced. We have to always adhere by those. It used to send a bit of a shockwave throughout the newsroom whenever, you were approached and it's like, yep, BSA. Took weeks to, give your replies back and all the rest of it. Very time consuming. We need those to keep us on the straight and narrow. And I can't believe after 37 years, this legislation hasn't looked ahead at the streaming options. I mean, obviously, the Netflix and all those to regulate them would be difficult, but certainly the online streamers in New Zealand should come under the same.
David Farrar, so Sean Plunkett, he rejects the decision, claiming that Parliament did not intend for the Broadcasting Standards Authority to cover online broadcasters when the law was written in 1989, as they didn't exist. Should the likes of the platform and others be under the umbrella of the Broadcasting Standards Authority? And if not, why not?
No. Why not? Because Parliament should pass a clear law if that's what they want to do. You don't have the BSA suddenly decide you're under our jurisdiction out of the blue. The real problem is, the status quo is broken. Let's take Radio New Zealand. Anything said on this is covered by the BSA. What you put on your website isn't. That goes to the Media Council. An identical video story which is run by staff isn't covered by the BSA, but if it's actually run by 3 News, which they now supply content to, it is. We have a very good media regulator in the Media Council. I'm a member of it through Kiwi Blog. And what they're talking about isn't actually abolishing the BSA and doing nothing, but all media just comes under the Media Council. And I think that is the way forward. It's industry self-regulation.
Would it be just easier and more efficient, more administratively efficient to say to all and sundry, the BSA is it?
Yeah.
One-stop
shop.
The government appoints the BSA. You don't want the entire media under a government-appointed body with power of fines and quite draconian.
Nor do I want the entire media under a council made up of the people who are doing their self-regulation. Yeah. Where's the community voice in that?
Yeah. Well, they used to have Marie Schroff on
just
there.
one wee person over on the side. Yeah. No, I don't accept
maybe
that.
a bit of both, maybe.
Yes.
The thing is, the BSA was when broadcasting was all powerful. The power of One News getting it wrong was devastating. I don't think broadcasting is that much more powerful than all the other media. So one media regulator, and I don't think it should be a government body.
So, David, now all we get is the PMO's office ringing up One News political reporter and saying you got it wrong. Please change it. Is that what?
Well, I think it was the political editor ringing up the minister saying we got it wrong in the case you're probably thinking of. But I think under any system you will have political staffers ringing up journalists to complain, and may that never end.
Let me while we have the former broadcast minister on, let me just reroute this another way. Round the panel briefly. Do we need a body that tells us or gives us standards, or should it just be an opinion-based free-for-all? Marian?
Standards, please. And standards that are based and articulated by community members, not just the owners of the media.
Okay. As a person, David Farrar, with a libertarian heart, do we need standards?
Yeah, Kiwi Blog, I am semi-libertarian and I've signed up because I see the advantages of that accountability of saying if I've got something wrong, I can be held to account, etc. there. So you can be against government regulation, but also very much for industry self-regulation. That works in many spheres.
Ruwani.
As much as it would save our legal bills with our lawyer, I say guardrails, please.
Guardrails, please. Good on you. All right. It is 14 away from 7. I'd rather. Hey, Marian, just a wee reminder, can you come just a slightly little bit closer to the microphone there? No, all fantastic. Loving your company and a big response on the text tonight, so thank you so much for that. And there's been a really big response to this. Now,
they know
this is extraordinary. It's the first time, I think, that the listeners know a bit more than the panellists. This is history making. So here we have a song with a purely political bent was released in 1980. What was the name of this song? Okay, so we have Ruwani Perera, wouldn't have a clue.
Duran, I was
David
into in
Farrar,
1990.
wouldn't have a clue. Marian Hobbs, wouldn't have a clue.
Age 23.
And,
Well, Marian, yeah.
and yet,
Three
it is one of
strikes.
our great political songs. This is something. With us on the line, we have Rick. How are you, Rick?
Good as gold, Wallace, and hi to the panel.
Lovely to have you on the program. Okay, firstly, the name of the song,
The name of the song is called Culture.
and by what band?
The Knobs.
And can you please sing the first line for the nation?
Oh, gosh. No, I probably can't, right off the top of my head.
Come on.
But it was written in response to the tax that Rob Muldoon put on LPs and cassettes because he didn't believe it was culture.
Oh, clever. I love it.
I thought it would be anti-Muldoon, being 1980. that was my random guess.
Peter Rowley played Muldoon on the song.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you play it, you'll hear Peter Rowley pretending he's Rob Muldoon. I used to work at Main Street back in the 80s when a lot of the New Zealand bands were just sort of coming to the fore, and Knobs was probably one of the biggest.
Yeah.
They played several places around.
That's right.
Auckland.
And the song went like this. It went, don't give me
Give me
culture.
culture.
I'm not hearing you, Rob. I can buzz around like a beehive boy, but I'd like to see you do my job.
stuff up front with the knobs.
Give that man a guest spot on the whip. Immediately.
Good on you, Rick. Thanks for coming.
No worries.
Very, very good. There you go. 2101 with Marian Hobbs, Ruwani Perera, David Farrar. Is New Zealand's fuel plan going to carry us through the crisis? As we stay put on level one, economist Shamil Jacob does not think so. He told Checkpoint the government's been slow and unclear in its response.
I find it extraordinarily frustrating. A month out from this, we've had so much time to prepare. It feels extraordinarily political. It feels extraordinarily flat-footed. It really quite reeks of limited competence in terms of how they could communicate in a state of quite heightened uncertainty with the public.
I'll start with you, Ruwani, because you were kind of almost having head in your hands regarding actually just the day-to-day price of fuel. What do you want? What's your take on this?
Well, I just feel like Shamabel actually hit the nail on the head, and this is one of the concerns that I've had each week when we keep hearing that the fuel stocks are okay. Now, we're seeing that sort of dipping, and we're told by the Prime Minister today, but it's all stable. I just feel like there's a lag time, so we're not taking into account yet the actual fuel disruption, because it's about 3 and a bit weeks, I think.
Right.
So there's a lag time, and our suppliers like South Korea and Singapore, they're going to be soon turned away. So that affects us as well. And I just feel like a little bit more urgency. Don't know about splashing the cash bazookas, but certainly offering some support, say, with public transport. People are using public transport. Why not make it half price just to give us a little bit of urgency?
The urgency is the issue for many people. Marian Hobbs, what do you think?
Well, I get very tired of sort of broad statements that don't tell me anything. So the article that was given to us to have a look at was comparing us with Australia.
Yes.
And Luxon said, oh, but I've got a security deal with Singapore. Well, great. What is it? How secure are we?
It's not
What are
even
the
signed.
details?
Yeah.
We know nothing. And I hate knowing nothing. It's not enough to say that we're okay. Please prove it. Please look at those jobs that need cars. We know it's the carers, but there's going to be other people. And so what are the plans for doing something about that, supporting those people, not because we feel sorry for them, but because we need those jobs done.
Do you think behind the scenes, Marian, there are things afoot? I mean, Minister Nicola Willis will visit the White House overnight, and she is going to directly ask US officials what the plan is for a return to normal.
US and normal in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Who's
the White
laughing?
House.
All right.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit cynical.
Okay.
But what I would like to know from, I please God, they are talking with officials and that the officials busting around, but tell us a bit, give us some hope.
Yeah. Do you feel confident though? I
don't.
Yeah, that's what I just don't feel like there's one person leading this. There's not this kind of, but I think they're just scared of COVID. They're just scared of being like a nanny state government, and maybe us sheep just want a little bit of that.
Is that fair, David, that there is that real reticence? Because what we talked about earlier, they don't want to go back to that sort of large support. There is a real negation of going back to those days of COVID, hence the quite, compared to Australia, the softly approach.
I think in terms of support, they just simply can't afford it. There just isn't. We're already really pressed in terms of debt and deficit, and I think that's going to be a huge challenge. I think they are weary about being seen to cause a panic before we have to panic. And that's not to say we won't have to, but at the moment, the supplies are coming through. In fact, there was something, if I will cheer Marian up a bit, someone just did an analysis of the problem isn't Singapore supplying us, it's whether it gets to Singapore.
Right.
And they analysed all the ships to Singapore in April compared to April of a year ago. And it's actually 15% higher than a year ago. So at the moment, it's fine. The problem is when it's not. We can't actually stock up in advance of that because we don't have the capacity. Best thing the government's done is they're going to get an extra 7 days storage at Marsden Point. Yep. If they could find another 7 days somewhere, that would be really good too. But until then, there's no point in saying let's everyone cut your fuel in half, because it will just mean fewer tankers will come to New Zealand where we actually can still get them. So it's going to be a very interesting, and no one really knows what's going to happen because Trump is so unpredictable.
But one thing I'd like to know is what is that trigger point that will take us to the next phase? Like, who knows that? Does anyone know that?
I think it's the fuel companies when they first get told that something who had committed to delivering is suddenly saying we can no longer get that tanker to you.
Gotcha.
Because they're really the ones telling the government it's still on track, everything's there. The price, to a degree where it's painful, is working. We're actually better off than poorer countries because we can afford to pay more, even though it hurts people, than the countries who simply can't be affording to pay for it now because there's less supply than there was.
We can, David, but there's a lot of people that have just normal jobs that
this is where support needs to be targeted. Like,
exactly.
I'm not a fan of subsidising public transport because there's been a 10% increase in public transport. But if you half price it, the 90% of that will go towards people who haven't been affected, who are using public transport anyway. You actually want to target the people who, whether they have kids or it's the type of job they have, who have no choice but to use the car.
Okay. It is 5 to 8 on the whip. If you just joined us, Marian Hobbs, Ruwani Perera and David Farrar. We're here every Wednesday from 7:30, just for half an hour here, and you can catch it on iHeart, Spotify and on the RNZ app. Look, just a word on that. It's not going to happen, but I thought it'd be a nice sort of, I guess just a theme just to throw at the panel and see where it sticks. So, is it time to bring back Auntie Helen? That is a question posed by columnist and panellist Verity Johnson, who says these trying times call for a leader with a spine, which she says neither of our major party leaders have. But I'll tell you who disagrees with that idea, Chris Bishop.
Helen Clark's become a bit of a sideline commentator over the last 2 or 3 years. I have a lot of respect for Helen Clark, but I think some of the stuff she's been saying is unhelpful and not true.
So around the panel, Marian Hobbs, is it time to bring back Auntie Helen Clark?
I respect Helen, but she's 76. All right? And
younger than Donald.
And that's right. When she was last Prime Minister in 2008, in those 9 years, 1999 to 2008, She would be lucky if she got 5 hours sleep a night. I don't want her to be exposed to that again. I think that's really rough on anybody. And it's also rough. But I have a job for her. She's an elder in, I think it's Mandela's group of former leaders. I would wish that we would have a group of elders in New Zealand, not just former MPs, but people who've got wisdom and experience and the time. And you could put up ideas. You could use them as a sounding board. They're not going to write the legislation, but they're a sounding board. And they're a group from which we could, chosen on a special topic.
Interesting idea. David Farrar, is it time to bring back Helen Clark?
I would say make my day. If Labour wants to roll Chris Hipkins and put Helen back in as Labour leader, I would be looking forward to the general election with glee.
Would you now? Ruwani Perera, is it time to bring back Auntie Helen?
Has Auntie Helen actually ever left? That's the question.
Oh, come now, Ruwani.
Bingo.
What are you trying to say?
And the
What are you trying to say?
She's got a play about her. Sir
Yes,
John
she has.
Key? Has Sir John Key had a play written about her? Look, I think some of her advice, as a former UN development ambassador, I think she has some, very interesting things to say about Gaza, about the Middle East crisis, and she seems to be of sound mind for, creeping up to that 78, 79 age.
She very much is.
Yeah, and she's pretty sharp as a tack. Like, why wouldn't you use her for special...
Well, I guess that point was that someone said they want, in this person's view, someone smart, tough and principled, and crucially, someone with the vision to see through a fog of hopelessness. Marian,
Talking of the sound mind, though, where I think Helen's analysis is a bit lacking, is she talks about, look, I disagreed with George W. Bush on Iraq and stood up to him and it was fine. George W. Bush is not Donald W. Trump. Donald Trump is non-stop attacking the Pope at the moment. It's easy to say, 20 years ago we agreed to disagree. We're in a world where, of course, you have to stand by your values, but you don't want to pick a fight with a president who can put 100% tariff on you or try to start a holy war because he doesn't like what you say.
On the other hand, I'd love to have a leader who actually said what we believe in as regards that blessed war at the moment.
Marian Hobbs.
Go, Marian.
All right, Ruwani Perera.
Bring back
Marian
Auntie
Hobbs.
Marian Hobbs.
That's another story. David Farrar, kia ora team. Great show. Stick around. Nights is up soon.